In a hall where galaxies bow to kings and crowns shine brighter than suns, one man without a title steps forward. The scanner that cleared every royal stops cold. Gold light floods the room. The ancient voice echoes 3 words that freeze empires. Crownless sovereign detected. Every eye turns. Every secret trembles. And in that moment, power itself chooses a new name. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video and tell us where you are watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The grand rotunda of the stellar convocation breathed like a living star map. Banners flowed along the upper ring, each thread holding tiny lights that shifted into constellations when a breeze from the air recyclers passed. The floor reflected it all in soft glass, so that every step looked like walking on a quiet galaxy. Nolan Quinn stood at the edge, palms smooth against the seams of his simple gray envoy suit. Earth had sent him because he listened well, spoke carefully, and never took the bait of pride. He was not a prince. He was not even famous back home. He was a kid from a coastal town who studied languages because words felt like keys. "Stay near me," Soraya Fen murmured at his side. Her skin showed faint meridian glyphs that brightened with her mood. "The procession is long, but it moves in rhythm. You step when you are called, and the arch will verify you like any other delegate. Like any other." Nolan tried a small smile. In this room, the ancient verification arch stood at the center, like an obsidian crescent caught in dawn. No one knew who built it. The convocation treated it the way sailors treat tides, not as a ruler, but as something wiser than rulers. It did not shout. It sang one true note for each sovereign as they passed. Emperor Corial of the Prism Empire approached first, faceted crown glimmering. The arch pulsed blue. A gentle voice filled the hall. Lineage true. Birthright true. Duty recognized. Corial crossed with the ease of someone who never looked down to find the floor. One by one, rulers moved through. Matriarch Saloon in a clouded sphere of sea-scented vapor. Lord Ashmere, who wore a ring of moon dust. The twin regents of the tide belts and more. Nolan could not name. Each time the arch flashed, spoke, and let them through to the circle of thrones. Escorts, scribes, and observers lined the outer ring. They shifted to make space as the lesser nobles passed. Then came the tier of elected leaders, like the chancellor of the Aster communes, each cleared with a shorter phrase. Authority recognized. Soraya touched Nolan's sleeve. 3 ahead, then you. He drew breath, letting the rotunda's low hum settle his chest. He had practiced this moment in training sims. Step, pause, accept, and move. 1,000 eyes could be kind. 1,000 eyes could be cold. He would not let either shape him. Envoy Nolan Quinn of Earth, called the Master of Forms, voice thin but steady. He walked the illuminated path, boots whispering over the glass. The arch's face seemed darker now, as if a cloud slid over a moon. Nolan stopped in the heart of it, chin level, hands open. He had seen blue for everyone else. He waited for blue. The arch turned gold. Not the gold of coins or crowns, but the clear gold of morning when the light finds water. A sound rose from the arch. Not a tone now, but a chord that made the floor join in. The banner stilled. Even the air felt like it was listening. "Crownless sovereign detected," the arch said. Silence cracked into whispers. A few guards shifted their feet. Few advisors tapped their tablets with stiff fingers. Emperor Corial's gaze sharpened like the edge of crystal. Matriarch Saloon's sea cloud folded in on itself and then spread, patterns quick and searching. Nolan did not move. He stared at nothing for one heartbeat and at everything the next. He was not born to a line. His grandparents had taught in a village school. His father fixed wind turbines. He had never even worn a real tie. The arch spoke again, voice deeper. Natural authority present. Service markers present. Legitimacy independent of engineered lines. Soraya stepped closer, but did not touch him. "Stay calm," she whispered. "Look at me, Nolan, breathe." Keeper Nen slid into view, robes heavy with inks that formed quiet shapes. "Escort the Earth Envoy to the remembered chamber," Keeper Nen said to 2 white-helmed wardens. "No accusation. No honor guard. Only care." Chairman Dover lifted a palm toward the thrones. "We recess 1 hour. The archivists will advise," he said, voice even, eyes measuring the tides beneath the surface. As Nolan left the rotunda between the wardens, he glanced back. The arch's golden light softened to amber. Not gone, only resting. Emperor Corial leaned toward a cluster of prism courtiers, their facets bright with quick talk. Matriarch Saloon's sphere sent a low wave against the floor like a hush of surf. Soraya walked at Nolan's side. "This will become a story," she murmured, soft enough for only him. "You cannot stop that, but you can choose what kind of story it becomes." "I am no king," Nolan said, voice steady because it had to be. "I am a listener." "Sometimes," Soraya replied. "The universe crowns a listener because listening is how worlds change." They reached a narrow hall cut from quiet stone. The wardens opened a door whose edges glowed with a pale breath. The remembered chamber waited within, older than the banners, older than the rotunda, older maybe than the names that floated in the air each summit. Nolan stepped through and felt the weight of history press a gentle hand to his shoulder, like a teacher asking him to sit for a lesson that mattered. The door sealed softly behind them. Outside, the 1,000 banners stirred again, as if the room had exhaled, and in the pause that followed, the convocation's heartbeat did not slow. It only learned a new rhythm. The chamber held no throne. It held a stone chair without ornament, set on a low dais ringed by carvings so old they looked like riverbeds. A soft glow lived in the walls. It was not bright. It was warm, like firelight on a winter table. Elder Callum stood near the carvings, small and patient, with eyes that carried the distance of long roads. Keeper Nen took the opposite side, opening a bundle of thin slates that whispered when the air touched them. Soraya stayed by the door, hands folded, every line of her body ready to help if help was asked. "Envoy Nolan," Elder Callum said. "This room remembers. It does not judge." "I could use both," Nolan said, trying to find a joke and landing on honesty. "Then you will get the better part," Elder Callum replied, and a hint of a smile softened the lines around his mouth. "Sit. We will call the light to show you the path that brought us here." Nolan sat. The chair felt warmer than stone should, as if it had been holding heat for a very long time. Elder Callum placed one palm on the arm of the chair and spoke a phrase that the translator did not touch. The carvings brightened, gently at first, then more, until pictures began to move across the wall as if painted with time. The first scene showed a young sky, ships the size of cities stitched beams into a ring. The ring grew into a home, a place where different kinds of life could meet without fear of air or weight. "The first convocation," Elder Callum said. "Not a court. Kitchen table for the cosmos." The pictures changed, faces upon faces, bodies of light, water, crystal, mist. Negotiations. Songs. Small arguments that ended in shared bread. Then the tone shifted. Rulers stood apart. Lines of code scrolled over the moving images like simple rain. Keeper Nen traced a symbol on a slate. "Long ago," Keeper Nen said, "some powers feared disorder more than they loved growth. They tuned their bloodlines for calm and control. It worked for a time. Then they built the arch to measure those tunes." Nolan watched a craftsperson with many hands fit a piece into the arch's heart. The craftsperson moved with care and grief, as if they understood what they were making would be used for peace and also for pressure. "But the arch has 2 songs," Elder Callum added. "One finds prepared crowns. The other listens for a different music." There on the wall, the other music pulsed. It was not a trumpet or a drum. It sounded like a chorus of workday voices that carry kindness, even when they are tired. It sounded like decisions made in long rooms where no one gets a statue. Nolan saw a desert clan who chose water for all. He saw a moon village that voted to rebuild before it feasted. He saw hands that held babies and treaties with the same care. A natural arc of service, Elder Callum said. Not bred, not bought. Learned by doing and passed by example, not by blood. "So the arch looks for that too," Nolan said almost to himself. Keeper Nen nodded. "Rarely, but yes." The wall showed a small figure labeled only as Traveler, stand beneath an older arch. The arch flared gold. The room in that memory broke into fear and hope at once. The Traveler did not take a throne. Instead, they asked for windows to be opened in a station that had gone heavy with curtains. Some curtains stayed closed. Others moved. Enough moved to let air in. The convocation did not forget. Images flowed faster. Nolan did not see every detail. Instead, he felt a pattern form. Whenever power grew stiff, the arch sometimes found someone who had power's shape inside, but not its old costume. Each time, the change hurt a little and healed a lot. The light softened. Elder Callum lowered his hand. The glow settled like dust in warm sun. "Why me?" Nolan asked, not as complaint, but as a person asking the right-sized question. "Earth is new. We are still learning to cross our street without bumping into our own feet. Perhaps that is the answer," Elder Callum said. "Your people learn fast because you practice often. You are used to making rules for yourselves and changing them when they do not fit. The Arch noticed that your life carries that habit. You listen before you steer. You share the wheel when the road is long." Soraya stepped closer. "There is also risk," she said gently. "Some will want your quiet to become silence. Some will want your quiet to become obedience. And some will try to make my voice too loud," Nolan added, "so that it drowns out the voices it is meant to lift." Keeper Nen's ink shifted like thought. "We must speak of law," Keeper Nen said, kind but firm. "The Arch's recognition has standing. It grants you full sovereign rights, though you did not ask. You can use them now, or you can suggest a path that lets the room breathe." Nolan pictured the rotunda, the banners, the long ring of thrones, the faces that had turned toward him when the gold light rose. He pictured the villages and boats and wind towers of home. He pictured a meeting where the newest voice does not shout or hide, but asks for fair timing on the agenda. "I will propose a middle road," he said. "Let Earth stand as provisional sovereign for 20 years. We vote on what touches our home and our near sky. We listen and advise on wider matters while we learn. We share studies, culture, and care. At the end, the room can judge our work." Elder Callum's eyes warmed. "That is a teacher's answer," he said. "Harder, slower, kinder?" The door chimed softly. A messenger's voice came through the panel. "Chairman Dovar invites the Earth Envoy to the circle," the voice said. "Debate begins." Keeper Nen gathered the slates. Soraya checked the seals on Nolan's sleeves and collar, the small tools hidden there by Earth's careful planners. Elder Callum stepped forward and rested a palm against Nolan's shoulder. "If you grow unsure," he said, "touch the stone inside your chest. Do not go looking for a crown. Go looking for balance." Nolan stood. The chair kept its warmth. For a second, he felt like a page being turned. They left the remembered chamber and entered the long hall again. People moved aside in waves, more watching than whispering. The rotunda door opened, and the breath of 1,000 banners met them. The arch still held an ember of gold. It did not sing. It waited, as old instruments do, for the next true note. The council circle was designed to make power sit down and look at itself. No dais was tallest. No chair faced the others like a judge. 12 arcs formed a ring. The thrones of rulers sat behind. Observers ringed the wall. The verification arch watched from just beyond, as if it were a tree listening to its own forest. Chairman Dovar lifted a small bell. The sound barely carried, and yet it went everywhere. "We open on the matter of the Arch's recognition of Earth's envoy," he said. "Speakers will be brief. Responses will be kinder than they feel." Emissary Ryle stood for the Prism Empire. Light slid along his fasts like water. "Stability has been the prism of peace," he said. "We must examine whether the Arch's ancient program suits our present day. I propose a committee to review its parameters." Scholar Naime floated within a soft vessel on behalf of the drifting veils. A low music colored her words. "The Arch has shown us a wonder," she said. "If a natural pattern can grow into service, we should study it. Perhaps we learn something that strengthens all." She smiled. "We ask for generous access to human research." Elder Callum, who did not sit in the ring but always seemed inside it, cleared his throat softly. "The Arch has 2 songs for a reason," he said. "Bread without salt fills a body and starves a tongue. Let us not forget flavor." Nolan stepped to the slim platform reserved for guests. His heartbeat felt like a small drum under a tent. He spoke simply. "Earth honors the Arch," he said. "We ask for a provisional path. 20 years. We will vote on matters that touch our sector, advise on wider questions, share what we learn, and accept guidance from those ahead of us." Murmurs stirred like wind in grass. Some faces tightened. Others eased. Chairman Dover raised 2 fingers. "We will form a drafting circle to build parameters," he said. Names? Delegations offered negotiators. Emissary Ryle named Zenith, a cool strategist who could tie a ribbon into a knot without breaking it. The Veil's named Name herself, smile steady, eyes sharp. Chairman Dover added 2 neutrals. Elder Callum glanced at Nolan and, with a glimmer of humor, added, and the Earth Envoy, if he can endure a long evening of tea and commas. After the formal hour, the rotunda unfurled into receptions. The Prism Empire hosted a chamber tuned to precise harmonies, where a bow of light played itself. The Veils gathered in a biodome where rain fell on one side and a dry wind blew on the other, and somehow both felt like welcome. Soraya stood beside Nolan in the Prism chamber, as soft-edged courtiers approached with questions that looked like compliments. Zenith drifted near with a polite nod. Your proposal is elegant, Zenith said. We will suggest frames that keep it from cutting. Frames can hold or box in, Nolan replied lightly. It depends who holds the hammer, Zenith said, and smiled in a way that did not touch his eyes. In the biodome later, Scholar Neme led Nolan past a grove of bioluminescent reeds that sang when the air moved. Shared study could be a bridge, she said. Gentle, strong, lasting. Bridges carry 2 directions, Nolan said. We will not be a lab instead of a neighbor. Not instead, Naomi agreed. Alongside, the drafting circle began at dusk. They sat at a round table that was deliberately plain. Platforms projected clauses into the air like patient fireflies. They worked line by line, sector voting, advisory roles, archive access at a careful level, cultural exchange, voluntary genetic cooperation with full consent, and a review at the end of 20 years, by midnight. They had a draft that made no one cheer and no one storm out. That is often a sign of real work. Just as Nolan relaxed his shoulders, Commander Veach appeared in the doorway, tall and insectiform, voice a steady buzz. Envoy, I need a moment, he said. They stepped into a quiet corridor. Veach's eyes flicked to corners and vents and back. We caught a shadow on a maintenance camera, he said. An unauthorized group accessed environmental controls near the rotunda. Cloaking tech is good. Their path lines up with the arch's lower conduits. Where old code meets new. If they touch the arch, Nolan said. They touch the room. We tighten the net, Veach replied, but I do not chase ghosts. I catch them. Nolan's training from Earth's quiet schools echoed, find the hinge, not the door. The arch grants override paths during ceremonies, he said. The saboteurs will aim to flood those paths and make the arch say what they want. You think they want to frame Earth, Veach said, or make the arch look fallible, Nolan answered. Either way, chaos feeds those who like the old fence. Veach's antennae angled sharper. The lineage conservators, he said, naming a whisper that traveled through high halls. They worship control, not wisdom. Nolan looked back toward the table where commas still blinked. We cannot let anyone turn this into fear, he said. If the arch is pushed, it should answer with truth, not silence. What do you need? Veach asked. Nolan thought of the remembered chamber, of Elder Callum's palm on the warm stone, of the way the arch's gold had sounded like morning. I need access to the original phrase key, he said. Not to change the arch, to wake its second song on purpose so it can show what is in front of us. Veach's mandibles clicked. You step inside a storm, he warned. Then hold the rope, Nolan said, and a steady smile found his mouth. I do not plan to fly away. They moved through service corridors and silent galleries until the arch's base loomed above, quiet and dark like a rooted mountain. Veach's team placed discreet monitors and field anchors in patterns that would not scare a mouse. Zoria arrived with a small device from the remembered chamber, a memory of a word. Night leaned against the station. The 1,000 banners slept, and beneath them, a plan set like a hook in deep water, ready to bring up whatever swam below. Morning in the rotunda felt like dawn on a ship. Calm for now, but every hand knew a wind was coming. The last day of the summit always carried weight. This one carried more. People spoke softly and stayed close to their own. Nolan stood near the arch with Soraya and Commander Veach a few steps back. Elder Callum waited along the inner ring, posture small, presence wide. Chairman Dovar struck the little bell. We return to the question, he said. We also hold a vote on the provisional draft at midday. The procession began again, a formality that told the room was still the room. The arch sang blue for each crown. Then came a ripple in the air the way heat shivers over a road. 3 shapes detached from a wall and became figures with masks like dull glass. They moved with confidence toward the arch's base. Veach spoke into a throat mic. His teams flowed like shadow into place. Not close enough to spook, close enough to spring. The masked figures produced devices that unfolded like black flowers and latched onto conduits. Nolan stepped forward. "Envoy," Soraya whispered. "Rope," he whispered back, and took the last 2 steps alone. He reached the arch and placed his palm on the same element Elder Callum had touched in the remembered chamber. The surface felt warm, then warmer. He spoke the phrase that no translation stone would touch. A simple shape of sound that tasted like old wood and new rain. The arch woke. Gold rose from it like sunrise through fog. The flowers on the conduits flickered and froze. The figures struggled, but their masks failed. The field made pretense heavy. Veach's teams moved in and removed the devices with careful hands. The arch lifted its voice, gentle and strong. "Outside command detected," it said. Source: faction known as lineage conservators. Intent alter ceremonial outputs to incite diplomatic fracture. The hall did not shout. The hall breathed in out. Emperor Corial stood, facets dimmed with something like shame. "The conservators claim my tradition," he said, voice low. "They do not speak for me." Matriarch Saloon's sea cloud brightened, then softened, like a tide coming in and smoothing the sand. Elder Callum stepped beside Nolan. He did not take Nolan's hand, but it felt as if he had. "The arch still knows its songs," he said. Chairman Dovar faced the room. "We hold the vote now," he said. "Provisional sovereign standing for Earth, per the drafted parameters with amendments noted in light of this morning." The voting rings brightened and dimmed in sequence. Sometimes a vote feels like a cliff. This one felt like a bridge built across a river that had been waiting politely for centuries. The tally rose clear. Yes, by a wide field. Then an addition. Proposed by a mix of voices from old thrones and new seats. Earth would have full voting power on sector questions at once. Advisory voice on wider matters with guaranteed audience. A protected road into Level 3 archives with a review gate that sized access to need. And a shared exchange of science and culture designed not to pry, but to learn together. Care would be taken to protect personal rights in all research. Everyone would sign with eyes open. "Passed," Chairman Dovar said, and the bell sang for a long breath. Voices rose, not as riot, but as release. Emissary Ryle inclined his head to Nolan across the ring, a precise gesture that meant, in the language of crystal, "We will spar, but fairly." Scholar Naim drifted closer, her vessel humming a pleased chord. "Bridges, not cages," she said, and her smile this time reached her eyes. Emperor Corial approached at a measured pace. "You stepped into danger and chose a light that clarified rather than burned," he said. "That is rare. I will remember it." "I only used what the Elder taught me," Nolan said. Emperor Corial glanced at Elder Callum. "Then I will remember to listen to quiet teachers," he replied, and moved away to speak with his people about cutting ties to those who had used his name as cover. Matriarch Saloon's vessel glided near. "The sea does not change shape for a stone, but it does make room," she said, which in her tongue meant, "Let us learn together without swallowing each other." Nolan bowed in the plain way Earth bows, short, steady, sincere. When the formalities ended, Elder Callum and Soraya walked with Nolan to a balcony where the banners hung close. The arch's gold had settled to a soft pulse, like a heartbeat heard through a wall. Veach saluted and returned to his teams, relief hidden under duty. "How do you feel?" Soraya asked. "Not taller," Nolan said. "Maybe wider. Like the room inside my chest got another window." Elder Callum chuckled. "That is the right size for a leader," he said. Window, not tower. Months later, on Earth, Nolan stood before the assembly under a ceiling painted with oceans and forests. He told the story with plain words. How the arch sang. How fear tried to borrow its voice. How a room of different worlds chose a bridge over a wall. He did not say the word king. He did not need to. He spoke of work to do, treaties to write, students to teach, when to catch, water to share. "Our new standing is not a prize," he said to the hall and to the millions watching on small screens. It is a promise. We will show we belong at the table by how we set places for others. We will listen, build, and take our turn washing the cups. The feed cut to a view of the night sky. The stars looked the same, but the human gaze on them had changed. Somewhere in a station where banners breathed, the arch rested. If a visitor passed beneath it late when the corridors were quiet, they might hear a small sound like a kind word spoken in a kitchen. That word would say, in its own old way, that a crown is not a metal ring. A crown is a circle of hands steady on the work. And when those hands meet patiently and with care, even the oldest rooms can learn a new rhythm and make space for many more chairs. And that is how the crownless sovereign story opened doors, not by claiming a throne, but by proving that humble courage can carry light far enough for many to walk by it.